Oh, it's taking its time today. There we go. We're live. Hello and welcome everyone to the main event. I'm Meeta and I'm really pleased to be joined today by Jeanette Forder, who is actually coming up as Meeta today as well. So apologies to everyone. We're not two Meetas. We've had IT issues. So
yes,
apologies.
But we got there.
We've got there. We are in the room with you all for the next 45 minutes. We know everyone takes time out and puts their mind and their hearts to getting the topic in the forefront of your organization and your team's mind. So this is fantastic. Well done to everyone who's taken the time out today. And Jeanette, thanks for being here today. It was World Menopause Day on Friday. How you must have been pretty busy.
Yeah, I'm delighted to be here again talking with you about this important subject. And I have to admit, I will not be sad when October is over. It has been a whirlwind with lots going on. So, I love it when we have an excuse to talk about menopause, and particularly when we're celebrating it as we have been. So, yeah, it's been a good month.
Good. And it's a bit like Valentine's, really, isn't it? Love is not just for the 14th of February, it's every day. And likewise, talking about menopause and ensuring that our female workforce, and actually it affects males too, because they're impacted. So our workforce as a whole are supported through this. So what was the theme for World Menopause Day this year?
So this year, the theme was HRT.
Okay.
Which is hormone replacement therapy. So there has been a long history of lots of big conversations about HRT, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it impacts, our health in a positive way, and then actually moving more into where we are now, thinking about the different types of HRT, the numbers of women in particular that want to take it, access issues, again, the positives. But there's been a lot of speculation. I don't know if you or anybody that's on the call saw the Panorama program recently, where they were actually talking to the British Menopause Society and particularly having a bit of a conversation around some of the private clinics that have been actually prescribing off license in much higher doses of estrogen and the potential impacts. So there's been a bit of a roller coaster ride about HRT, so it's good to be talking about it in a broader audience.
Here at the main group, the main event is all about helping our network, our community, whether that's business, commercial, or whether that's not for profit, to give and get the best support for their people. Success and happiness in equal measures. That's what we're all about here at the main group. And that talent journey, it's not just about getting the right people in, it's about supporting them when they're in work. And actually this demographic, it's sort of mid-40s to mid-60s, would you say?
Yeah, pretty much, yes. Yeah, it's a huge demographic. I did my research, and there's something like, where are we? 13 million people in the UK alone that are in the perimenopause to postmenopause stage of life, which is a staggering number.
That is huge. So they can't be an organisation out there that isn't impacted or that doesn't need to be on this webinar. So we haven't got 13 million. We've definitely got a good few, but we haven't got 13 million. But this is where it starts. We start the conversation. We keep the topic alive, and we delve and we explore and we share. And so what I would say to everyone here today, I'm just about to do a bit of the housekeeping, but what I'll start by saying is that we record today's session. So whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching a recorded version, please feel free to share this with other people in your network, especially members of your team or members of your leadership, where sometimes you saying something may feel like, they've heard it before, but saying, look, we actually took the time out to go to an event with specialists on it about this topic. And, it just means that sometimes hearing it from another voice helps to get that message across. So as I mentioned, for everyone that's been here before, I apologize. You'll have heard me say this many, many times. The main event is about 45 minutes long, so we should finish around 1:45. It's a live event, and it's all about giving you as our attendees the voice and the space to get the answers that you're looking for. So first and foremost, I'm going to put a little hello in our chat box. Is that your background?
I was going to say, I hope you can't hear that. That's the doorbell going, yes.
Don't worry. As long as it's not our webinar tech letting us know there's something else.
No, you're lucky the dog didn't bark at the same time. We're keeping it real, everybody.
Just thrown a quick hello out to the group there. So hi to everyone. Give us a hello back. Let us know you can hear us. Let us know that you can see us. And let us know if there's a particular topic that you want to discuss today. While you're testing the chat box, please also do give us your thoughts on the poll. So whenever we have a main event and we do this podcast, we really want to understand the impact of this topic to you so we can get a taste of the temperature of the room. And so today's question in the poll has been, which of the following HRT challenges have impacted your workforce? So the options are access to medication. We know that ever since post-COVID and post-Brexit, there's been medical access issues to medication that we just took for granted, and HRT is one of them. Mm-hmm. The time off that employees need for appointments, team support and understanding, senior leadership support and understanding, because it starts from an environment of access and understanding, and then reducing hours and absenteeism. So those are the options. At the moment, wow, Jeanette, we have got 66% of the room are saying that team support and understanding is the biggest issue. So there's something to be said about that. Access to medication, time off for appointments, both equally in third place, and senior leadership support is in second space. So, right, those numbers are moving around a bit. So thank you, everyone, for giving us your thoughts on that. But team support and understanding are miles ahead of everything else. I just want to check that the chat box is working. So can I get a hello? Can I get a howdy or something from the room? Just, I know we've definitely got some people in the room. You're giving us your polls, but just let us know you're out there and that the tech is working. As I said, we've had some challenges today. I really hope that people can.
People are there.
Hello, David. Thank you. Hi, Janisha. Thank you all. Brilliant. So everyone's giving us some highs and loud and clear. Okay. Fantastic. Well, then let's jump straight in. We've definitely had some setting up time, but let's jump straight in. So today's menopause is going to cover a few different areas. We're going to be talking about how HRT plays a vital role in managing menopause symptoms. So this is going to be, I suppose, the science bit, right?
Talking about a little bit.
Yeah. And then is the decision to take HRT affecting the organisation? And essentially, that's where the poll comes in, like what elements of that. So we'll cover that. This is the biggest one in the poll, how women struggle to find the right support and how this may then impact engagement, in performance and productivity. So not getting this support is directly affecting bottom line. And then there's this new employment rights bill that has just the previous.
It should be going live. Well, it's been through the Lords and everything this month, so it's coming very soon.
Okay, so we'll talk about how that impacts menopause and employees in the workforce. And then finally, what do employers need to know about supporting this growing group? As we said, it's a huge demographic of employees. What employers would need to know to support the group of employees that are affected by this. So where shall we start, Jeanette? How should we dig in?
Should we dig in with, do you want to do some of the science? Start at the beginning. Why not?
Okay, so how is HRT playing a vital role in managing and supporting these menopause symptoms?
So we know that as women progress through menopause, it's all about our changing bodies and our fluctuating hormones. The key hormones of estrogen, progesterone, but also the male hormone of testosterone, which we all have in us. As those fluctuate, because our ovaries essentially go into retirement. They put their feet up. They say, I've done my time. It's time now to stop working. All my egg supplies are used up. And that's what causes our hormones to change. Yeah. As those change, our bodies and minds go through changes as well. So we will get various different symptoms as a result of the changing hormones. For many of us, we won't notice it at all. And I meet women that say, oh, I'm out the other side. I didn't have any impacts. Oh, no. But 1 in 4 women, so a quarter of women, will have debilitating symptoms that will last for a year or more. And they will really benefit from HRT if they're able to take it, because there are some medical conditions where you can't take HRT. Yeah. Or if it's in their ideology and their philosophy that they want to take it. So it is very much a personal as well as a medical decision. Yeah. But the good news is that HRT, if you decide to take it and you're able to take it, can have significant positive impacts in lessening the symptoms. So, for instance, it can help with brain fog, that piece where we can't concentrate, we make mistakes. It can help to clear that. It can help to lessen hot flushes and night sweats, which means we sleep better. It can do so much in regulating our mood as well. So it can have big impacts, and certainly in the workplace, you want staff that have slept well at home. They're not overly anxious. Exactly. If we've slept well and we're not anxious, our brains work better.
Flow. It's just about flow. And it's interesting what you said about a quarter of women will have debilitating symptoms for a year or more. But actually, what I come across and what I hear is that it's not a year, it's many years. Yes. It may not be debilitating, but it's life-changing. And so the scale of, women that need to have some form of intervention is probably much higher than 25%.
Yeah, I would agree. I know from my own experience, it took me probably 7 or 8 years till I actually got HRT because of issues with the GP. But I was being treated for various different symptoms in isolation. And whilst they wouldn't have lasted, they might not have lasted a long time, but that at that moment they were difficult, and then another symptom would come in and make that one worse. So it's a changing picture.
Yeah. And I was just saying that, you put your money where your mouth is, and you left the corporate world and you made this your whole career. And this is where Phoenix is built from. It's all about the support out to the workplace. So
absolutely. I mean, I had 20 years working in HR, and you would think in HR we'd get it right, but we didn't. I had good experiences and bad experiences with different managers and with different teams. Yeah. And that's why I'm really passionate. Who would have thought that menopause would be my passion? But there you go.
Well, I think in this workforce where the demographic is pushing up and the age of the workforce is increasing, it's going to become a bigger and bigger element of the working team, and therefore employers should be informed and have all the tools at their disposal. So hopefully today's session is the beginning of that. Look, everything leads back to team support and understanding. So what I'd love to do is, whichever element we're talking about, let's cover off what support somebody would need in that area. So if there's an employee, if there's an employee who's starting to demonstrate symptoms, how could a manager or a teammate support them before they've even gone on to HRT? What would somebody have to notice, and how could that support be given?
So it's quite a difficult one, because everybody's journey is unique, but it's understanding some of the symptoms that might show up at work. So you might have someone who was usually really good, always showed up on time, well presented, full of beans and lively, that suddenly perhaps their time of getting into the office is fluctuating. They're getting later and later, or they're complaining that they feel tired, or they just don't look themselves. I know I started to wear clothes that I was like, I really can't be bothered to work out what suit to wear. I'll just pull this on. You start to kind of, not that you don't care, but you start to look for easy options.
It's harder, isn't it?
It is harder. Or you might see someone who is usually really calm, really positive, suddenly displaying kind of weird moods. I say weird, mood changes. I know I went from being really calm and tolerant to being so intolerant and with a fuse wire that was like this small, and I would lose my anger. I would get angry at the slightest thing. And whilst I knew it wasn't me, so did my colleagues. So they started to spot things. And I think it was one of my teammates that said to me, let's go get a coffee. You don't seem yourself. Let's have a chat. What's going on for you?
Yeah.
And it makes all the difference.
It does. And, one thing I realised we've started, we obviously both have businesses, but we never want this to feel like a sales pitch, ever. We just want it to be about sharing. But last time we did a session, we said to people in the group, would you be interested in knowing which training options there are that might help you or members in your team to overcome the challenges that we're talking about today? And people said, yes, we would be interested. So what I'm going to ask is, what kind of training or coaching would a manager or a senior leadership want to embark on when overcoming it? Because look, the thing is, if somebody went to somebody else, especially a manager, and said, oh yeah, are you experiencing menopause symptoms? There could be all sorts of upwards.
Yes. I would always say perhaps not the best way to approach it.
No, but literally, it may seem obvious, but it isn't to everyone.
No.
What sort of coaching and training would an organisation think about?
Yeah. So I think the first point is always going to be find a way to open the conversation generally and across all staff. So I always do awareness raising sessions, so talking about what menopause is, how it impacts the workplace, so just making it a safe space to have a conversation. Then there is specific line manager training, which talks about, again, how to spot when something's happening, how to approach the conversation.
And the beauty of that training, because we offer management training and communication training, it doesn't have to be just about approaching the menopause conversation. It's about any time that you want to show support and create that safe space for a member of your team. And actually, this is something that should be a part of your one-to-one structure.
Yeah, you have 100%. 100%. I know I was really lucky. One of my managers was very clear with his team that you had a conversation about tasks and delivery. Then you would have a development conversation. So where do you want to take your future? Then he would have a conversation around actually in terms of well-being.
Yeah.
What in terms of your well-being and your health and all of that is coming into play. And it's like any crucial conversation, whether you're talking about performance, mental health, cancer treatment, whatever it might be, it's just being able to have these tools in your pocket. And the training gives managers a raft of questions that they can use to ask. It tells them how to set up the conversation. But most of all, I think for managers, the most important thing is to stay positive and to put the individual in the middle of the conversation. Yeah. There's a human in the middle of this. Yeah. So actually talk to her and say, as he did to me, I've noticed you've been struggling a little bit lately, and these are some of the things that I've seen that seem out of character. Do you want to have a conversation? What's going on for you? And he just opened the door. Equally, if your staff member then says, no, everything's fine, it's saying to them, I appreciate that, but know that if it isn't, you can open my door, we can have this conversation. Invariably, they'll go away and reflect and come back to you.
Because if there is a performance challenge or a timekeeping challenge or a presentation, or it could be one, but it could be little elements of all of them, which is usually how it happens. Yeah. It's if a manager has approached somebody and had that conversation, the person sort of says no, it becomes quite difficult, doesn't it?
It does. And also it's recognizing that for the individual, they might not have realized they're at that stage in life, or they might do and not be, I was going to say, enjoying it, because it does come with fear of, that means I'm old, that's an end. So there can be all sorts of things going on. And equally, it could just be an attendance issue. It could be a performance issue. But what I would always recommend is try to explore other areas first. And if you can, if it is menopause, do some reasonable adjustments, which are really easy to make in conjunction with the employee. If not, if none of that works, then yes, it probably is an attendance or a performance issue that you need to then be looking at. But rather than jump straight into that, explore other avenues first if you can.
Yeah. We just had a question about if this session is recorded. Yes, it absolutely is recorded. It will go out to everyone at the end of the day today. But if you have any challenges or you don't receive, because sometimes it can go into people's junk box, which is really frustrating, but just drop me an email and we'll get a copy out to you. And Jeanette, if the approach to the conversation and how to have that safe space is difficult, I actually know, even from our own company's experience and dealing with other employers, there are so many employee support schemes and apps and things like that. So, for example, I know that at the moment our private medical for our team is with Vitality, and there's a whole section on menopause. We also have something called Health Shield, which has a whole different set of support functions. So it could be that without being in your face with somebody, you could do a little overview and say, hi, all, by the way, just to give you a little refresher, here's all the support, well-being support tools that we offer as your employer. And just
100%.
Listen, whether it's mental health first aid, whether it's Calm for, anxiety, whether it's Peppy or Vitality for menopause, whatever it is, do some reminders. I think, and I know that we often let people know at induction, maybe let them know once a year, but these are things that you can bring up more regularly.
Absolutely. And there's lots of awareness days throughout the year, not just World Menopause Day, International Women's Day, Learning at Work Week. There'll be other wellbeing weeks that actually you can point people to those aspects on your website. It's making sure on your website that they're really easy to find, that actually you don't have to keep clicking and searching, that it's there. Another thing is actually to raise that awareness is to have some of your staff, if they're comfortable doing it at all levels, doing little podcasts, little on-the-spot interviews, talking about their experiences, where they got help from. Because sometimes just being able to read the information is enough.
Yeah.
And it's making it available.
And what about some anonymous polls? I love an anonymous poll. I love let's get a temperature of the room.
Yeah, they are always really useful. I do them on every training session that I do in terms of what did you know now, and then later on, what have you learned? Those are really, really useful to do. And you can do those on your website.
Yeah.
Your staff survey is another really good place.
Yeah.
That you
what
can
questions did somebody put for menopause questions where they wanted to get a feel for if their employees are getting the right support or not?
So you want to be doing the attitude ones where you've got a scale rather than a yes/no answer. So things like my organisation cares about my well-being. I feel confident that my organisation has support in place as I go through menopause. My manager understands my manager understands and supports my well-being.
Yeah.
So these ones that you can do strongly agree right through to no, not a hope in hell do they do that. So it's those attitudinal questions rather than yes, I'm perimenopause or no, I'm not, that kind of thing. But also you've got a mine of data. We love data in organisations. So you will have all your demographic data. So you'll know roughly what percentage of your staff will be at this stage, will be beyond it, or will be coming up to it. You can also look at your absentee data. And a lot of companies now are asking the question on the return to work or whatever on their fit note, is menopause a factor? So you can look at it and say, actually, this is menopause is causing us this amount of absenteeism. Also, if you have an employee assistance program, which many organisations do, staff can call that and get support anonymously and confidentially. But there will be data that goes back to the organisation that says X% of calls were based on this subject. ask them to collect information about whether you're getting calls relating to menopause. So you can then see where that's coming from, as well as using, what I used to in my corporate world, we used to put a question up on our intranet every day about well-being.
Yeah.
Just a yes, no. Am I in menopause? Yes or no? Because it's anonymous. Do I get the right support? Yes or no? And it just gives you a little bit extra information. Obviously, you need to do something about it. You never ask the question and don't take action. But it gives you that information to know, is this something we need to be doing right now, or have we got time to build up?
Yeah. It's everything that is a good idea is usually like really obvious, but it's not that people don't have their heads and hearts in the right place. It's about getting some structure, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And it's every few months.
I think, yeah. I mean, your staff surveys are usually once, twice a year. If you do pulses, it's really, really good. Definitely have your starting point. Do any training, education that you want to do. 3 months, 6 months, check back. So run the poll again. Has there been a change? What's happening? And also, if you've got staff networks, get them involved. Sit down with them. Ask the question. What does it look like? Has anything changed? What more? Get them involved in the solution, because they will have ideas and know what they want.
Yeah, the answers are all within the people.
They are,
you don't need to call the experts in to tell you what's going on. Your people will tell you.
Yeah,
and then it's, as you said, understanding the data and starting to put some steps into place. And I think what's really powerful as well is we've listened. These are some of the suggestions. We're going to start with this. In another month, we're going to do that. Or in 3 months, or whatever it is. Keep that communication going. Don't let it become wallpaper. Again, it's easy enough to start, jump out of it really strong. Hey, it was World Menopause Day on Friday. So this week we're running this webinar. We're sharing this main event with you all. So you know what we're thinking about doing. And then nothing. Yeah. That happens. And it's not, again, through bad intention. It's just other things take priority. So how can employers keep that as a priority? Are there such things as menopause first aiders, like there are mental health first aiders?
There's not a kind of a specific group necessarily, but a lot of employers are looking at menopause advocates or menopause champions. Yeah. So actually staff from within your organisation at any level who want to support and volunteer. And again, that's something I can help with in terms of actually what's that role. And that role is a support role. It's a signposting role, just like a mental health first aider. You can call it a menopause health first aider. Yeah. They're there to listen, to help the individual to gain some perspective and distance, point them to some tools that can help them. And also, actually, if as an individual you're really nervous having that conversation with a manager or with your HR specialist, actually ask the menopause champion to support you. They can come into the meeting with you, or they can have that conversation and open the doors. Again, it's about the human in the middle of it, empathizing. And that's where your champions can be really useful, because they can support in that way, but they can be a bit of a conduit backwards and forwards. So they can feed information back around what's working and what isn't working, or what staff are saying you might want to try to do differently. So they can be a really good organisational tool that helps both sides.
Yeah, brilliant. So as mentioned at the start, the poll shows team support and understanding as 72% of the room. And if we then bring senior leadership support into it, which is 11%, that's 83%. That might as well be the challenge for everyone in the room. And as I said, it underlines and outlines everything we're talking about. Yeah. What can an employee do? What can somebody in HR or a manager do if senior leadership haven't shown support? How can we overcome that, deal with that?
Yeah, it's always a difficult challenge. But I tend to really think Actually, if you're not the senior leader, but you're passionate about this, you can do that Nike thing. Just do it. You can assert that upward pressure on the organisation.
What would that look like?
It could be setting up a network. So I know one of the civil service departments that I've worked with, whose leaders weren't really into it. They felt they had too many other things they needed to focus on. And in business, I get that. But their staff decided, with a couple of ladies who were really passionate, they set up their own menopause cafe. Okay. So no support from the organisation, just started it very small in their own group, put a memo out, an email out to people and said, we're going to get together just to share some experiences and support one another in this coffee shop or in the canteen at this time. Come along if you want to. And actually that was so successful that the HR lead then went, hang on a minute, what's happening over there? Perhaps this is something we need to listen to. And from that came the pressure to actually, we need to do something more. And as you say, formalised it because it was all being run by volunteers. So started to look at, can we put some monetary support in? Is there something more we can do? Training. Now they have a network of champions. So it doesn't always have to come from the top. It's great if it does, but if it doesn't, you can assert that pressure back up. Yeah.
And I think what you spoke about data, I think that if you do want to take this to senior leadership, take the data of the cost and impact to an organisation. If they can see that there is a cost, both financial and professional, we know, I'm in the game of, putting people into organisations. We know the cost of replacing people when they leave. So if you not only have people that are getting in late, but people that are leaving. I mean, there's a statistic around how many women leave work. Something like 25% leave their job in the menopause phase because they're 25%. Is that right? Have I got that right?
It is really high. Really, really high. But it's also recognising 8% of those people won't apply for promotion. Think of the talent and skills you're losing. They sit there, they stagnate. 13% think about going part-time. Another 13% think about retirement. So if they're thinking about that, their whole brain isn't on the day job. They're thinking about, I need to get out. So you're losing productivity and engagement. And I've got a stat here on absenteeism due to menopause in the UK, and it's estimated to cost the UK £191 million a year. Wow. There's a piece there for me. Yes, you can give your organisation all this data of what you're losing, but think about the opportunity cost. What's the opportunity that your organisation could gain by keeping these people in the workforce, keeping them engaged, feeling valued? Think of the creativity, the diversity, the problem solving. Think about how they can help your younger workforce coming through. You've got a massive opportunity cost there.
All that knowledge and expertise of the organisation. And, every organisation has a diversity policy. Yeah. But if people are leaving, 25% of women are leaving, it's going to impact your diversity.
Of course it is.
It's going to impact your retention.
Yep.
Longevity. All of these things are just going to plummet.
Yep. You can think about actually the drive to keep these staff in work and to actually recruit and attract others in that age bracket as a real kind of business competitive advantage. Yeah. So it's thinking about it on a slightly different way. It's how you package the story.
Yeah, it's being commercial and bringing the solution, bringing the positive impact of putting this into place.
Yeah, so 100%. I mean, I always talk about it's really important to do the right thing. We all want to do that. But actually, if doing the right thing isn't the thing that really captures your leadership, it will to a certain extent, but the monetary cost, the business cost, go to them and talk to them in business terms, in terms that they will understand, terms that will wake them up, terms that will mean that their shareholders will want to buy more shares or won't walk away to a competitive.
Exactly. And that's what it's about, isn't it? Being the employer of choice. Again, for us, you know, we're on that talent journey with our clients, but it starts with who you bring in. But to bring good people in, you have to demonstrate that you are an employer of choice, that you attract and retain the best people because of everything you've thought about and put into place. That isn't done by chance. That's done by intention. So don't make it something that you put into a staff handbook that you go over in induction. Bring it to life, keep it alive.
And I think it's important remembering that your staff don't live in isolation. They've all got social media. They will all be talking to their friends about what a good or bad employer you are at this stage. You know, I know I have, and I openly tell my story. So it makes people think, is that an organisation I want to work for? So don't miss that.
And those every incremental small percent, when it's compounded, can have such a huge impact. So anybody that is influential, whether it's HR, senior leadership, management, or even a teammate, we can all play our part. And it's just so important to get the conversation going.
Definitely. It's all about talking about it. The more we talk about it, the more we can have an impact.
Now I'm looking down because I'm going no paper anymore, and I'm looking at my notes on my phone. But there's
I'm old school.
I love old school, but my printer doesn't allow me to go old school. Workplace stigma, is that still a thing, Jeanette?
Yes, I think it is. And I think it's not just workplace stigma. I think there's stigma around menopause in all sorts of areas of life, which is really sad. And I think because menopause is very much caught up with the aging agenda, which I don't like, but, you know, we have to recognise that we go through menopause as we're aging, and we still live in quite an ageist society. So there's always going to be stigma there. But actually, the only way to break down stigma is to talk about it, to normalise it. And the more we can do that and call out the bad behaviours or the bad managers and get change to happen, the easier we're going to be able to break that stigma. But it still exists in my view.
That's so disappointing, isn't it? Because you think so much work is being done, has been done, but that's why we keep the conversations going. So people know that, you know, wherever you're at on that journey, wherever your organisation is, let's just move it along. We're not going to be able to flick a switch and fix every challenge, but we can move the conversation along. And I think for the main event, whatever topic we're talking about, that's what our aim is to move that conversation along. Now, the room's been quiet. Hopefully that means we're talking about what you want to hear. But if there's any questions or any comments or any angles that you want covered that we haven't covered, please let us know, because Jeanette and I, we started a little bit late, so we'll be on for a few more minutes after 1:45. That's all right for everyone. And Jeanette, I know you and I are both available a little bit after as well. But if you have questions that you don't want to put in the room, both Jeanette and my details will come out to you with the recording. We're also on LinkedIn. We're always putting thought pieces out. Just reach out, follow us, connect with us. Let's keep this conversation going, and let's keep this topic at the forefront, even outside of this session today. Let's keep doing good.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Jeanette, you've been talking to people. Tell me about what's been coming up. HRT was the topic. If you're to look back at your sessions and the work you've done with businesses and business communities, what would you say is the biggest factor?
It is probably very similar to the poll. The support from colleagues, teams and managers. It's definitely helping managers to be in the right space, have the right tools to have this conversation. But equally, actually enabling those who want to have a conversation, who want the support at work, to access it, but recognizing that that's not for everyone. I interestingly met a lady who said that when she was going through it, work was her safe space, where she could leave that. She was also having cancer treatment. She could leave all of that behind her. She did not want to talk about it. at all. And it's recognizing that we are all unique. So having that support there readily available, not hidden away, so that those that want to access it can, and those that perhaps say they don't want to access it or want to access it much quieter can also do that. Those are the big things. It's like, this isn't a sheep dipping exercise. It's an exercise in getting it right for your people as much as you possibly can. But that's been, you know, access to HRT, prescriptions changing, distribution issues have all come up when we've talked to individual ladies. So it's, again, support outside of your GP service as well. Yeah.
And then giving them the time to be able to go off and do that. So many people, if they need to take that little bit of extra time, will make it up. And I know that sometimes as employers, we get so obsessed with like sticking to the hours, but actually a little bit of flexibility, you get so much more back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Again, it's about, these aren't cogs in your machine. These are human beings. These are people. And when people feel valued and supported, they will give back so much more. I know I did, and I'm sure most of your customers would as well.
And retention again.
Yes. They stay because they feel valued.
Yeah. So I'd love to tie up. We haven't got any new questions in the group, which just means you've just given everyone everything they need. Or they want to do it offline. But I just wanted to cover about this new employment rights bill that's launching this month and how that addresses menopause in the workplace. Please, Jeanette.
So fundamentally, the employment rights bill is looking at lots of things: access to flexible work, getting rid of 0 hours contracts, sorting out the fire and hire regime that we've seen, particularly with like P&O ferries. Yeah. So it's looking very much on those sides, but part of it has also recognised that menopause is an issue in the workplace. And it's what they're looking at is they're asking companies over 250 employees to actually have a menopause action plan and publish it in the same way that you have to publish your gender pay gap details.
Okay.
There's going to be...
Where's that going to come in from?
Sorry, say that again.
When is that going to be required from?
It's probably not until next year, but they're still working out those timelines. Yeah. They're also bringing in menopause leave. We're not quite sure how that will work yet, but it'll be a little bit like disability leave, where actually you can have longer periods off, you know, on over and above holiday or sick leave in order to deal with some of the more severe menopause symptoms. That is still, the nuts and bolts of how they'll do that is not known. But the big one is the menopause action plan, which I think, with my business and personal head on, I think it's a good idea. Will it change culture? It will only change things if people actually do the action behind it. And I see one of the people says, do you have a sample menopause action plan?
Yes.
Not yet. I'm designing that, but I was going to, after this, give some resources to Meeta that might include some of the questions you might want to ask or the things you might want to include in a menopause action plan. The big thing there is taking action and evaluating as well.
Perfect. Well, we'll get that out to everyone. And what I would say is that Jeanette and I will definitely be running sessions like this again. We've done a couple already, and it's good to keep them dotted out throughout the year. So if you've attended and found today useful, please keep an eye out and come back for the next session. And don't forget that Jeanette and I are both available outside of this, and we both have training sessions that are suitable to menopause support. Jeanette, you're the menopause specialist, so if it's specifically menopause, Jeanette's your go-to. We are business trainers on that side, so we can angle the training to whatever your organization's needs are. So Yvonne's got a comment here. Carers leave was introduced, but it's unpaid. Do you think menopause leave will be paid?
That again is a big question. I suspect, my gut says probably not.
Mine too.
Because it would be a massive overhead, or could be a massive overhead for employers. And it could be a bit like parental leave, which is unpaid. It's an option that you can take.
Yeah, and I know when we're doing staff planning, elite absence planning, we're looking at contract work, we're looking at a lot of temp work, we're looking at interims. A lot of the flexible working solutions for organizations are coming back to the forefront. Yeah. And it's because if you're having the conversation with your people, you're seeing what their needs are, you are able to give them the support, whether that's from within or by bringing external people in to overcome those bumps and shifts along the way. But also to allow that person to feel that they've got the space to take that time.
Yeah, definitely. And the space is the important piece.
Yeah. Okay. And we have a question asking, what is the best way to try and introduce a menopause policy into the workplace?
That is a really interesting one, because strangely, as a menopause expert, I'm a bit anti-menopause policies. I don't like necessarily standalone policies for an issue, but they do have their place. And probably the best thing to do is actually start off by having a conversation about menopause. So you're raising awareness of it and understanding the issue in your workplace. Then would be to introduce your policy as part of that conversation.
Yeah.
The idea of the policy will be to say what menopause is, what the symptoms are, and where you can get help.
Yeah.
Again, if you can actually look at your policies and build menopause into your policies, so thinking about flexible working, recruitment, conduct, absence, performance, promotion. Yeah. If you can look at it and go, how would this negatively or positively impact an employee going through this stage of life? You can then go, okay, in that case, we need to do this.
Yeah.
That to me is the better way to do it, but it doesn't work for all workplaces.
Yeah. And I would say that if you as an employer don't have any sort of menopause action plan, guidelines, policy or anything, we all know the best time was back then, the next best time is now, and say, because of the conversations we're having, we'll start with a poll, with some conversation, and say, you know what, we'd really like to take this further. And we've listened. So rather than start with a policy, start with some listening, and then say on the back of the listening and on the back of the information, we've put together what you've asked for, and we've put together what we've gleaned from webinars, training, whatever. And this is what we've put together. So it's collaborative. And I think when it's collaborative and everyone has a voice at the table, it works better and it's embraced more. And therefore it becomes self-fulfilling then out in the work.
Absolutely. Co-creation all the way. Definitely.
Co-creation, that's the phrase. So we have another question here, which says, should employers consider selecting a menopause option for employees taking sick leave?
I would say yes. I would say definitely embed it within your policies and give the staff the option to say, yes, this is menopause related. Because I know I had insomnia, migraines, aching joints, all sorts of different things that took me on a regular basis out of the workplace. So that you can then look at it and think, oh, there's an awful lot of absences there. And if you're on the Bradford scale and all those things, that's going to look bad for an employee. But actually, if they can say it's menopause related, you can then have a different conversation around, okay, how can we support you? How can we help? Would it be that flexible working or different hours might help you? Have you been able to see your GP? Let's put you in touch with our medical people who can get you a gynecologist appointment. So they would still need to look at their absenteeism, but it gives you another lever to say, what can we do to help you? So definitely that should be 100% the first thing you do. Yeah.
And just feedback from Denise that you have so many resources, support and guidances in place. So you've definitely started. It's just great to be on the journey, right? Let's just, wherever we're on the journey, let's move it along.
We all have to start at the beginning.
Yeah, indeed. So the poll has finished. 72% of the room said team support and understanding. So I hope that everyone was able to get that angle in everything we've covered today. Next were senior leadership support and time off, and access to medication came in at the end. So hopefully that means that problem isn't quite as prolific as it has been. Interestingly, reducing hours or absenteeism hasn't arisen. Now, that might be because everyone's managing it really well already, or people don't realise that they can have that conversation.
Or it is just that the lack of team support and understanding is the bigger issue. That's the issue that people are noticing. And then if they looked at the data, they might see that absenteeism. Equally, presentism can be an issue too. I know I used to go in and work when actually I wasn't at my best, and that creates even more productivity issues.
And the only thing I would add to that is, don't think just because people are working from home that they're not, that presenteeism is dead and gone. It's not. If anything, people are even more at their replying to everything all the time because they don't want to be seen as being away. So start the conversations. If you start the conversations, continue them, create the space. And thank you, everyone. Wow, what a powerful session. Yeah, really good. Thank you for your input on the polls. The questions are fantastic. And as always, Jeanette, you've been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love doing these. It's a pleasure to work with you again on these.
Likewise. And what I would say to everyone is, please do share this with your community, because the more that we can share ideas, spread the word about the fact that it's not difficult, it just takes some thinking and planning, the more support we can give and the better environments we can create. Success, happiness, engagement, productivity, everyone's a winner.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, on that note, we could be here forever, but we've definitely gone over time. So thank you, everyone, for sticking with it. And Jeanette, thank you again. And I'm going to say bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye.